Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the fifth and final webinar in the IFAS Beef Cattle Economics webinar series. I'm glad you were able to join us tonight. If you lose connection during the webinar this evening, please know that the webinar will be posted on the IFAS Range Cattle Research and Education Center's website. Tonight's webinar focuses on replacement heifer economics, the cost of raising beef replacement heifers. This slide shows the relationship over time of cow-calf returns over cash costs and U.S. cattle inventory numbers. Note that there is an inverse relationship between them. As U.S. cattle inventory increases, cow-calf returns decreases. Also, we need to understand that positive profits are necessary to maintain and/or expand our cattle operations. These are the basic alternatives to maintain and/or expand your cow herd. They include retain and develop heifers from your own herd, buy open heifers and develop them, buy bred heifers, buy bred cows, and buy bred cows with calves, also called a 3-in-1 package. Tonight we're going to focus on retaining and developing heifers from your own herd. I recently ran across this information and wanted to share it with you since it pertains to our topic tonight. This was a survey that was conducted by the USDA to look at what percent of beef replacement heifers were raised on cattle operations. They found that 83% of operations raised their own replacement heifers, while 17% purchased replacement heifers. Several folks have asked me, why do some cow-calf operations raise their own replacement heifers? Some of the reasons I've heard from cattle producers include tradition, quality such as genetics, health, or breed, the timing as replacement heifers must be managed to fit a specific calving season, lower cost, home raised may have a less chance of disease, and then larger herds have a limited marketing opportunities to purchase large numbers of uniform replacements that are calving at a particular time. Likewise, why do 17% of cow-calf operations purchase their own replacement heifers? These reasons often include tradition, quality, those genetics, health, and breed, the lack of resources such as their facilities, labor, and management. It may be a lower cost. It allows them to carry more brood cows, or maybe they're a new entrant to the cattle business. The first topic we want to address tonight is how much does it cost to raise beef replacement heifers? First, we want to review an example that includes all the costs associated with raising beef replacement heifers. Secondly, we want to look at the sensitivity of various levels of total costs and pregnancy percentage. How much does it cost to raise beef replacement heifers? This is a frequent question that I get asked by many cow-calf producers. Obviously, the famous economic answer is going to be it depends on what costs you include. Also, every cow-calf operation is going to have different costs for developing their beef replacement heifers. So what I've prepared is an example of the financial costs to develop a beef replacement heifer. It doesn't fit any particular cow-calf operation. As many of you may know, ag economists have that annoying habit of including all the costs. So don't be shocked by our example of cost estimates tonight. We want to include all the costs of developing beef replacement heifers. Let's begin with that retained heifer calf. We're going to assume that she weighs 525 pounds and has a market value of $2.45 a pound, or $1,286 per head. This is going to be our single largest expense associated with raising beef replacement heifers. Next, let's estimate our grazing costs between our weaning and calving, which is typically about 16 months, from 8 months of age to 24 months of age. In this slide, we're going to assume that she uses 2 acres. Her land rent is $25 per acre. She has pasture maintenance costs of $50 per acre, which totals $150 of grazing costs per replacement heifer. Now, this slide describes the feed cost to develop a beef replacement heifer. Our feed costs will most definitely be influenced by the number of grazing days. This example includes feeding grass hay for 90 days at 20 pounds per head per day at a cost of $80 per ton or $72 per head. An energy supplement was provided for 75 days at 7 pounds per head per day at a cost of $225 per ton or $59 per head. A protein supplement was provided for 75 days at 3 pounds per head per day at a cost of $175 per ton or $19.69 per head. And then salt and mineral was provided for 487 days at 0.2 pounds per head per day at a cost of $650 a ton or $31.66 per head. So our feed costs are going to total $82.41. Again, these costs are going to vary widely among cattle producers. Our herd health and checking the reproductive status before and after breeding is going to be a very important component of raising our beef replacement heifers. Herd health is a small investment for a potentially large return. So in this example, we included vaccinations of $10 a head, supplies were $5.50 a head, and then our pregnancy check was $8 per head, for a total of $23.50 per head. Next, the breeding costs are for the use of a natural service breeding bull. We assume that a bull price of $4,000, exposing 25 heifers per bull, a useful life of 4 years, our cull bull weight of 1,900 pounds, and then a cull bull selling price of $1.20 per pound, and then our annual carry cost of $1,100 per year. After calculating and summarizing these costs, our breeding cost per replacement heifer is going to be $44 per head. Next is our miscellaneous expenses. These are going to include our labor, our overhead, interest, machinery and equipment, miscellaneous expenses, and then a management fee. Interest was charged on all our capital invested in our beef replacement heifer operation. And then we included a management fee of $150 per head. You know, you want to get paid for what you do. That's why we included a management fee. So this slide shows a summary of our variable costs. It estimates that the variable costs for developing 100 beef replacement heifers would be $186,559 or $1,866 per beef replacement heifer. This slide is going to estimate our total fixed costs for developing 100 beef replacement heifers at $31,790 or $317.90 per beef replacement heifer. It also estimates our total variable and fixed costs for developing 100 beef replacement heifers would be $218,350 or $2,183 per beef replacement heifer. Now, of course, this assumes that all 100 heifers were pregnant, which we all know is very unlikely. So we must make an adjustment for our non-pregnant heifers in a later slide. So now we're going to make that adjustment for our non-pregnant heifers. In our example, we started with 100 potential beef replacement heifers. One heifer died, 15 heifers were culled, leaving 84 pregnant beef replacement heifers. The math is as follows. We incurred variable and fixed costs of $2,183 per replacement heifer for those 16 non-breeders, which is going to total $34,936. Our total market value for our 15 non-breeders when sold is going to be $22,500. So this results in a net loss for our non-breeders of $12,436. Or when we divide that by our remaining 84 pregnant heifers, it's going to provide us with a net loss of $148 per pregnant replacement heifer. So we're going to have to use this value to calculate our total cost of developing beef replacement heifers. In this slide, we want to determine that total cost of our raised beef replacement heifers, which is going to include our total variable and fixed costs, the gain or loss adjustment for our non-breeders, and then an adjustment for our reduced brood cow inventory. The adjustment for our reduced brood cow inventory is to account for the reduced profit from running fewer cows. Since we're raising our own beef replacement heifers, it reduces our cow-calf profitability by about $133 per head. Now in our example here, our total cost of raised beef replacement heifers is $246,339 for 100 beef replacement heifers, or $2,436 per raised replacement heifer. Now in this slide, we're going to look at a sensitivity analysis of the total cost of raised replacement heifers with respect to the percent confirmed as bred, and then the level of cost for our variable and fixed costs to raise beef replacement heifers. For example, $2,600 of variable and fixed costs and a 90% level of confirmed as bred results in total costs for our raised replacement heifers of $2,739. Next, for the same level of production costs, $2,600, we move from 90% to 85% confirmed as bred. It costs us an additional $61 per head as we move from $2,739 to $2,800. So this 5% decrease in pregnancy costs us an additional $61 per head in production costs. Alternatively, at production cost level of $1,800 per head, moving from that same 90% to 85%, it would only cost us $17 per head, moving from $1,850 to $1,867. So that 5% decrease in pregnancy was only going to cost us $17 per head in production costs at a total variable and fixed cost level of $1,800. The next topic we want to discuss is how much can I spend to develop bred beef replacement heifers. This slide calculates our break-even cost of developing bred beef replacement heifers based on the average profit per brood cow and the number of calves weaned. This analysis assumes a cull cow value of $1,400 and a discount rate of 5.75%. Let's look at a quick example. Using the expected average annual profit per brood cow of $200, and we assume she weans 6 calves and then she's culled, our estimated break-even cost of developing this bred replacement heifer is $1,992. Again, this means a producer can earn a $200 profit per brood cow if its cost to develop a bred beef replacement heifer are $1,992 per head. If the cost to develop a bred beef replacement heifer are less than $1,992 per head, then the producer will earn more than a $200 profit per head. Alternatively, if the cost to develop a bred beef replacement heifer are more than $1,992 per head, then the producer is going to earn less than $200 per head. You can see that the lowest break-even cost is in the upper left-hand corner at $1,418, and the highest break-even cost is in the lower right-hand corner at $3,035. The higher the break-even cost is associated with higher levels of profit per brood cow and a higher number of weaned calves. Again, if you raise your bred beef replacement heifers for less than these amounts, you're going to realize profits larger than those that are indicated at the top of this chart. In this slide, those boxes denoted in green are equal to or higher than the cost that we estimated in our example tonight at $2,463 per head. These higher break-even costs above our estimated costs means that we're more profitable for these combinations than the amounts listed at the top of the chart. Lastly, we want to briefly discuss how can I reduce my raised beef replacement heifer development costs. We want to consider what strategies to lower our input costs without adversely affecting our pregnancy percentage. So how can I reduce my heifer development costs? Let's think about where we want to begin to make those cost reductions. We will need to know our costs by categories and the amounts as you see on this slide. So let's attempt to reduce our largest costs first, which are our feed, pasture, fixed costs, and our non-pregnant heifers. So first, our feed costs are going to vary widely from year to year. Here are a few factors to consider when trying to manage the feed bill. First, we want to match the feedstuffs with our nutritional needs of the animal. Using the seasonality of prices to make our feed purchases, we always want to be thinking about buying in bulk quantities. And storing our feedstuffs, and then minimizing feed waste. And then increasing the number of grazing days will help us reduce our feed bill, and that may be by stockpiling forage. Managing our pasture costs are going to be equally as important. So here's some thoughts about getting more from your pastures in terms of quality and quantity. Maybe it's maintaining your target soil pH, proper fertilization levels, rotationally and strip grazing your pastures, appropriate forage selection for your specific sites, weed management, and always thinking about adjusting your stocking rate. Now, fixed costs are always hard to evaluate and control. The most common way to manage fixed costs is to work at lowering the level of fixed costs by avoiding those unnecessary machinery equipment purchases, adequately maintaining machinery equipment to extend its useful life, spreading it over more enterprises if available, and then custom hiring machinery equipment when it's economical. Non-pregnant heifers usually add significantly to the cost of developing beef replacement heifers. If replacement heifers do not become pregnant, we're going to have to make an adjustment for that. So some of the ways we can manage our non-pregnant heifer costs are checking that reproductive status, such as our pelvic measurements and our reproductive tract, performing breeding soundness exams on your bulls, evaluating synchronizing or AI for your heifers, providing adequate nutrition to your replacement heifers. So lastly, it's always important for you to compare the price of purchasing beef replacement heifers with your cost of raising beef replacement heifers. In our example tonight, it costs us $2,463 to raise our beef replacement heifers. Comparing that to the 20th Annual Florida Cattlemen's Association Quality Replacement Heifer Sale Summary, these fall calving bred replacement heifers cost $2,668, and those winter calving bred replacement heifers average $2,686. So I encourage you to calculate your own costs to raise replacement heifers and compare them with what's being offered for the market on each year. In summary tonight, it costs more to raise beef replacement heifers than most people think. Be sure to include all those costs. The cost of the heifer, the feed, pasture, and fixed costs are large expenses that are going to be involved in developing beef replacement heifers. So increasing those number of grazing days is going to help lower our overall replacement heifer development costs. You want to get paid for what you do. In our example tonight, we included a management fee of $150 a head. We got you paid for your assets, your machinery, equipment, and facilities of $167 per head, and interest on your capital that's invested at $101 per head. That's getting paid for what you do. I always want to encourage you to include some costs for your management, your labor, as well as your assets and your money. So this concludes the Replacement Heifer Economics webinar tonight. I hope you found this presentation very helpful. Thank you for participating in this webinar series. I hope you have a very profitable 2015 in your cow-calf operation. We'll take a few minutes to try to answer a few questions that we've received tonight. Again, any questions that I don't get to tonight, I will reply to you by email. So the first question we received tonight is, how much can I get paid for a bred replacement heifer? How much can I pay for a bred replacement heifer and her be profitable if she stays in my cow herd for 10 years? So the best way for us to answer that question is, let's look back at our chart. So looking at our chart that we've developed, if she stays in your cow herd for 10 years, and let's just say on average you had a profit of $100 per brood cow, she stays in your herd for 10 years, you could spend $1,545 to develop or buy your bred replacement heifer. So obviously, given the market today, we'd have to do a little bit better than that. So if your average profit is $200, average annual profit is $200 per brood cow, 10 years, it would be $2,290 to develop or buy a beef replacement heifer. And then that another scenario, if we're looking at average profit of $300 per cow per year, you could spend $3,035 to develop or buy a bred beef replacement heifer. So it's really always going to depend on your specific situation. Another question, using that same chart, was if it cost me $2,000 to develop bred replacement heifers. She has 8 calves, and she'll earn an average profit of $200 per year. Based on your tables, is she profitable? So let's look. 8 calves and $200 profit per year. $200 average annual profit per year with 8 calves. And it costs you $2,000 to develop her. So yes, she would be profitable. So in our table, that average annual profit of $200 per head over 8 calves, and then we also included our salvage value of $1,400 there. So that your break-even cost is going to be $2,149, including a $200 profit to you. So since it only costs you $2,000 to develop your replacement heifers, you would have earned a profit slightly larger than that $200 per year. So yes, that was a profitable scenario for your operation. All right. Again, I'll be happy to try to help you with any of your questions. My contact information is listed on the slide here at the end. Ooh. So I'd like to thank you for your time this evening. I hope you enjoyed this webinar series and you learned something that is going to be helpful to your program. Thank you for your time and good night.